Hi, my name's Willa Gebby. I'm an illustrator and watercolourist. Today I'm working with Archie's watercolour papers. You may be familiar with the brand. They're a heritage French brand and have been running since 1492. And they're a professional quality paper, so they have a gelatin sizing on it, which means that the paper is just a bit more sturdy. So if you tend to work wet on wet, or if you like to use masking fluid or use scrubbing techniques, then the paper is really going to withhold that pressure. The first one here is a rough grain textured watercolour. So this one isn't pressed. And it has this beautiful texture on the paper, which, especially if you're working with abstract or you work wet on wet a lot, this is great because it's really absorbent and the paper stays quite wet for a long time, so you can work into it much more. And if you like to have that texture showing through in your work, this is perfect. I really liked working with this. It's a little bit more, it's a bit looser than I normally work because of the rough paper. You want to take advantage of the grain and the ability to work wet on wet with this paper. Something that really strikes me is, even though this is a pad rather than a block, the paper is really not warped. It's kept its shape really well, even without stretching it. I also have the slightly smoother. This is the cold press paper. Again, this comes on a pad. This is a kind of more generalist watercolour paper in the sense that it suits all different types of painting. Like with the rough, it has a bit of texture, so you can use work wet on wet quite well with this, and you've got a bit of time to work with it because the paper stays wet. Here I have my macro. So again, I've worked fairly wet on this. That's the beauty of using cold press or rough papers, is you can really let the watercolour do a lot of the work for you. But again, despite the fact that I use quite wet, the paper is not buckled too much. I think that's because of the heavy weight, the 300 GCM. So it means that I would be quite happy to work with this and not stretch it, even though it's on a pad rather than on a block. And I have their hot press paper, which comes in big sheets. The great thing about this hot press paper, it's actually hot press on one side and cold press on the other. I tend to work a little bit more detailed on still life, and so I find that the smooth paper helps me to get more detail in. But the downside with smooth paper with the hot press is it absorbs the water a little bit less, so you have less time to work with it before you lose those beautiful bleeds that you get with watercolour. So it feels really nice. I think especially with it being textured on the back, you feel like you've got a really nice quality paper. So with this you've got the best of both worlds. You've got this smooth surface to work on, but you've also got the lovely texture that makes it feel like a premium product.